Hi, we're from Pomona High School and we'll be discussing the poem Birches by Robert Frost. Robert, can you start us off?
I think it's interesting how he uses a lot of different imagery and like how how the different elements like sway the trees, because at the beginning he just talks about birch trees and how they are swayed down by different elements like winter and summer.
Okay. I think maybe like the line 3 he's talking about, I like to think some boy's been swinging them. I think when he says that, he's kind of reminiscing or like going back to like childhood and just talking about how like they're just swinging on the birches and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree with that, because then at the end he refers back to like the boy swinging on like the branches and playing, but in the middle, like the whole time he's kind of describing the birches and how it's not from a kid playing on them, it's more from like nature and the snow. So what do you think about that? Because I kind of understood it, but I was kind of confused about like why he was using this like Frost to describe the birches.
Well, I guess he's just trying to describe how the trees are kind of like bent and weathered, and so I guess a good way for him to describe that is using like winter and how the snow and ice will do that to the trees.
When he says, "Such heaps of broken glass to sweep away, you'd think the inner dome of heaven had fallen." I think he's referring to heaven because it's like white, and when you think of heaven, I guess it's like white and beautiful, but then fallen, it's like broken.
So going back to the question of, we start out with this boy, right, swinging on the birch, and then he goes into winter, right, and he talks about how sometimes the birch trees get weighed down by the frost and the snow. And the reason he does that is because it's a complete tangent, right? He keeps going off on all these tangents, and he has to keep reeling himself back in over and over and over. So, like if you look, let's go to line 21, right? So,
Pardon the interruption, but just a quick announcement. If you are a member of the band or the wind ensemble and you are supposed to be at the field trip today,
this is what happens when you're teaching AP Lit. You get these announcements.
Again, band members and wind ensemble, if you are not out there to the bus, please get out there now. They're getting ready to leave. Thank you.
If you get interrupted during your class, please comment below. So in line 21, right? So it says we have the snow and everything, and then we go and we get this new image, like girls on hands and knees that throw their hair before them over their heads to dry the sun, right? Or dry in the sun. And then he says, "But I was going to say, when truth broke in, with all her matter of fact about the ice storm, I should prefer to have some boy bend them." So that whole section from like line 4 or 5 on is a tangent, right? He's like, it's good imagery, right? But it doesn't connect to his overall message because he's totally going off on this complete tangent. All right, bye.
Okay, so why do you think he does that then? Like the tangent thing. I don't know why he would do that.
I think he just kind of goes and keeps going, and like he's like, oh, I need to come back and kind of like show what I really need to be talking about.
So that's like no significance, like he just did it for imagery, you think? Or like,
I think so.
I don't know either, so.
I think he maybe does it for a purpose, like say you're driving down the road and you see that like a tree branch broke, and you know it was probably from like some type of weather, but you think like maybe something else happened, and so there's like different things that could have happened, but you don't know because you weren't there to see it. And he like has all these thoughts, and he just keeps going back to it.
And then also truth is capitalized, and that's like the only thing aside from like the start of the lines, but like truth is I think has some significance, and then it's like after the tangent, so I don't exactly know what it could be, but like, but I was going to say when truth broke in, so like maybe branches broke and the truth like really set in, and like he kind of realized it, or realization of something.
Yeah, like, and then the line after that, with all her matter of fact about the ice storm, I should prefer to have some boy bend them. So like what actually happened was the ice storm, but he would have preferred if a boy was swinging on them and bent the branches.
I think his whole rant might be like some kind of symbol for like how life has rough patches. Because if you go to the very last 4 lines of the poem, it says, "And life is too much like a pathless wood, where your face burns and tickles with the cobwebs." I feel like maybe his entire rant was just about like how all the weathering of trees is like how life has rough patches, and then the trees eventually come bounding back.
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
'Cause I think that the whole like last section of the poem, like where it starts at, "So was I once myself a swinger of birches, and so I dreamed of going back to be." And then after that, what you just read, it's kind of like life, I guess, and how like reality is different from what you want it to be, maybe.
So like the ground is like adulthood and like responsibilities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The ground can be that, and then like he always kept his poise to the top ground, just climbing carefully, and then he kicking his way down through the air to the ground. I think the ground is just like the truth, or his like realizations that he has to always go back to that. But,
Yeah.
like when he's in the tree and like swinging from birches, he's kind of like there's no responsibilities. He's kind of just there and like in his own like.
Yeah, I agree with that, because like when you're a kid and you like see a tree and you really want to climb the tree, and so you do, like when was the last time that you climbed a tree now, or like when you're an adult, you don't really have a desire to do that.
And then I think he kind of like dreams of going back to being like a kid, where he swings on birches. So like that line where he's like, so was I once myself a swinger of birches, and so I dream of going back to be. I think he's just talking about how like he wishes he can go back to being like a kid and like having no responsibilities and being that, but he always has to come back to the ground.
And then I think like where Robert was talking about like the rough patches thing, then he goes and then on like the last part of this poem or whatever, it says Earth's the right place for love. So like even though he talks about like the rough patches, like he still says like Earth's the right place for love. So maybe he connects that back to like climbing the tree, because then a few lines down from that he says, "I'd like to go by climbing a birch tree." So yeah, that's what I think about that.
When he says, "I'd like to go by climbing a birch tree," do you think he means like he wants to like die doing something fun, or?
I feel like he does, because then it says toward heaven, and I don't know why that's like italicized or whatever, but I feel like he does, because he talks about like this like tree the whole time and like how much he enjoys it. So I think he does.
Exactly. He wants to die by doing this whole birch tree thing, right? But is the birch tree thing literal or is it metaphorical?
Pretty sure it's metaphorical. How do you think it's metaphorical?
I don't think anyone literally wants to die like climbing a tree. So I think that's probably why it's like most obviously like metaphorical, but
Robert?
I guess it's probably metaphorical, because he doesn't want to like literally die with the tree, but like I guess his last like happy thoughts, I guess he would want to be about that.
I think, yeah, it's metaphorical for sure. Like he's just talking about like how he's climbing towards heaven, not necessarily on the tree, but like he's just like he's trying to find that. He wants to go there, but like he keeps coming back to where he has to come back to adulthood or responsibilities and the ground, and that's what it says. But it dipped its top and set me down again. We're done. Huh?